What is your response to that?
Well, Trump's comments are appalling, and they're insulting to all those British veterans, the soldiers who lost their lives, the soldiers who came back with life-changing injuries, and all their families and friends. But people know I've regularly criticised Donald Trump for so much, and I question his character. But I also question the character of British politicians who've been supporting Donald Trump. Nigel Farage called him the bravest man he'd ever met, a man who's dodged military service 5 times. I think Nigel Farage's character is on the line, along with Donald Trump's.
And, you know, Donald Trump has been putting European politicians through the ringer in the last few days with Greenland and the shift back on policies and everything. What do you make of Prime Minister Keir Starmer's response to that?
I'm afraid the British Prime Minister has been too weak with Donald Trump. I've long argued that this bully in the White House only responds to strength. And I've called for our alliances in the UK to be stronger with Europe, stronger with our Commonwealth allies. And we've seen people like Prime Minister Carney from Canada, President Macron from France, and the European Union be far stronger. And they've got Donald Trump to back down. The threat from Europe of the bazooka of retaliatory tariffs sent shockwaves through the stock markets in America, and I think Donald Trump's billionaire friends said you've got to back down. So standing tough and strong against Donald Trump is what is required, what Liberal Democrats have been arguing for. I'm afraid the British Prime Minister and indeed other opposition parties have been too weak.
I mean, do you think that Trump can be appeased?
No, he can't. Yes, there's a role for diplomatic behind-the-scenes cajoling, but when he is being so insulting to our troops, when he's being so hostile to our country and our values, threatening the end of Nato, you cannot do that by appeasement. You have to stand up to him. You've got to be much stronger. And you've got to be stronger with allies in Europe, in the Commonwealth. And if you do that, we've seen time and again that he will back down. So I'm afraid that the British government, the Conservative opposition, the Reform opposition, have just got it wrong here. You've got to be tougher on Donald Trump.
And in yours, was it?
Yeah, Trump is threatening our economy and our defence, and therefore we need to show we have alternatives. We need to work with our NATO allies in Europe and in Canada and elsewhere to show that we can work together on our defence if America isn't going to turn up. We need to make sure against his protectionism, his damage to the world economic order, that we have alternatives by working closely with particularly Europe. Liberal Democrats have called for a new customs union with our European neighbours. That would more than offset the damage being done by Trump and enable us to grow as an economy and help us tackle the cost of living. So we need alternative economic policies given Trump's threats, and it's been Liberal Democrats who've been arguing for those.
Right. And
well, I think we should do more to support President Zelensky in Ukraine against the outrageous illegal invasion by Putin. But you have to bring it back to Trump. Trump has been supporting President Putin. President Zelensky is between a rock and a hard place. He's got to play along with Trump, but I'm sure he knows that Britain and Europeans are the true friends of Ukraine, but we should still do more to back those brave Ukrainians. I think Britain and Europe should use those frozen Russian assets. We should seize them and use that cash to support Ukraine. And we need to redouble our efforts. Liberal Democrats have called for a European rearmament bank so we can boost our defence industries and make sure we are as strong as possible against the threat that Putin is.
great. And
Well, I do have some sympathy, at least I did, with the Prime Minister, because we need to see if you could work with our American allies. But I think it's absolutely clear with this particular American president, he is not a reliable ally, and he's going against the national interest. And so I'm afraid the policy of Keir Starmer and the Labour government on this has just got to change. Liberal Democrats have been arguing that for some time. We need a stronger approach. Yes, of course we need to see if we can continue to work with our American friends, but we've just got to be realistic. And I think it's a massive wake-up call, and I'm hoping the Prime Minister will now change his policy.